Hey everybody, my name is Ashley and welcome back. Today I am here talking about something that is very exciting to me. It is gardening, and I am looking through my garden seeds and I'm thinking, let's talk about some seeds that are really powerhouses when it comes to producing a lot of vegetables. Some things that you plant, you only get one of. One onion seed or bulb produces one onion. One beet seed produces one beet. But there's lots of vegetables that produce a lot for one plant or just from one single seed even. I've separated out my top 7 I would not only recommend, but I am doing this year. Now, these things are not necessarily the best for container growth. These are plants that can maximize your maybe limited garden space. I have a very small backyard. Most of this stuff will be planted there. So when I'm thinking about these vegetables, I have my backyard specifically in mind. As I've gone through my seeds, I've realized even though I've already done my 2022 seed haul, that's going to actually have to be the first seed haul because I have a second order that's going to be coming, and I'll go over those when it arrives. So let's get on to the top 7 veggie maximizing seeds. I am not affiliated with Johnny's Selected Seeds at all. I just really love their website and photos, and I want to show you some photos of the vegetables we're talking about. First up is going to be tomatoes. Now this is something that I'm going to buy as a transplant. I'm not starting my own tomatoes this year. So when you buy a tomato plant, one tomato seed effectively becomes many pounds of tomatoes. The type of tomato that you want to go with just totally depends on what you like to eat or what your intended use for those tomatoes are. You can get cherry tomato plants that just grow tons and tons of cherry tomatoes. There is one called Super 100 that I've grown before that is delicious and is just a mass producer. They're great for throwing in any kind of salad, any kind of baked oven dish where you're roasting vegetables. They're super easy and super versatile. Otherwise, if you wanted to eat a lot of tomatoes in sliced form, there's a lot of really big tomatoes that become just big and rounded that just make beautiful slices. And one of my absolute favorite things out of the garden is a freshly sliced tomato with just a little bit of salt, and those big slicers are perfect for that. The last one I'll talk about is a Roma style or a San Marzano style tomato, which are the plum tomatoes. These tomatoes have been developed to have fewer seeds and also less water. So they're a lot easier to use when you're making sauces or salsas or things like that where you really want to reduce the water content. Seed number 2 is cucumbers. Cucumbers is something that I talked a lot about in my garden haul video. I actually have 4 different types of cucumbers that I'm planting this year, 3 of which I planned for, 1 of which I got as a free trial packet from the Jung Seed Company. They threw it in with my order. Now, cucumbers are wonderful because one single plant will just keep blooming and blooming and blooming until the weather effectively stops its growth. Now, the thing with cucumbers is you want to make sure that you have multiple plants. Even though they don't take up a lot of space where they're planted in the ground, have at least several plants because they like to cross-pollinate with those flowers. They help each other grow more cucumbers, and they do better when they are grown in a set. They do need space to grow, so if you have a small spot in the ground you can plant and then just let them go up, that is a really great option. The last 2 years, I have planted cucumbers right in my backyard, something that prior to that, I didn't even want to do. What I did was I took away some of my sod, I cut a bakery bucket so it created its own little space where the grass would not encroach on the plant. And then as those plants grew up, I made a string trellis and I let them grow up to my fence. Cucumbers are great because you can put them in salads, you can pickle them, you can make relishes, and they really produce very well. And they also produce ongoing. So it's not the kind of thing where you would just harvest it when it's done. You pick these cucumbers as they come, and once they start coming, they will just keep coming and producing for you. The thing with cucumbers is you just want to make sure you water them a ton because they love to drink a lot of water. Okay, the next vegetable I want to talk about is zucchini or summer squash. Now, zucchini is typically green. There are also summer squashes which are more typically yellow. Now, this is one seed that I did not initially purchase, but I have two coming. One is a green zucchini and one is actually a yellow patty squash, which are more of like a rounded squat squash. Now, these are also great because they are mega producers. Once they start producing, they just go and go and go. And just like cucumbers, you want to have multiple plants as well of the same variety because they will help each other do better and grow better. It doesn't matter if it's a summer squash or a zucchini or a patty pan type squash. One seed, if fed well, watered well, and has adequate sun, will grow a great plant, and they will continue to grow great vegetables for you for quite a while. Now, these seeds that I'm talking about, while there are other vining cropped seeds like different types of squashes, the reason I went with a zucchini is because zucchinis don't take as long to start growing. Some of the more winter squashes, while they do grow a lot from one seed, they take longer to get going. So if you have limited space, these zucchinis only take about 50 days until they start producing, whereas some of the squashes can take as much as 90 days or even longer in some cases. So they do provide a little bit more flexibility. The next seed that I want to talk about, seed number 4, is peas. This is something I talked about how I'm going big in this year. This package has almost 1,500 seeds, and I'm not going to be planting them all this year, no. However, just like all these other seeds we're talking about, once they start coming, they will just continue to grow over a period of time and give you a continual harvest. Just like cucumbers, they will need a place to grow up. Peas are super fun. They're super rewarding. They're one of the first things that you can actually get out of your garden. They're really fun to shell, and you can throw them in fresh. You can cook them, you can freeze them, you can can them. They are so versatile, and each pea becomes a long plant that has flowers that you can eat, or you can let them grow into the pods and eat the peas out of the pods, or you can even let them stay on the vine, dry off, and you can collect the seeds to produce next year. Vegetable number 5 is beans. Now, I'm not talking about hard beans, I'm talking green beans, wax beans, those types of string or stringless beans. A lot of times these beans are grown as a bush, which is nice because it'll help balance out some of these that vine upwards. There's lots of great options for beans. There's different colors. If you're looking for a great vegetable that's going to produce a lot, a single bean will produce a lot of beans for you. Just like peas, you can eat them fresh, cook them, freeze them, you can can them. They can be used in so many different ways. Vegetable number 6 is potatoes. Now, this is the first one we've talked about that grows underground. However, one seed potato can give you a lot of potatoes in return. Depending on your soil type, how you feed it, how you water it, the sun exposure dictates how many potatoes you might be getting out of that single plant. Potatoes can also be grown in containers, in crates. There's a ton of really different ways that potatoes can be grown. Doesn't have to just be, I have never tried growing potatoes in a container, but this year is the year for that. I'm going to definitely grow most of my potatoes underground, but I'm very, very intrigued by these containers where you're growing potatoes and you fill in as the potato plant gets larger and larger. You keep filling in soil and building it up, and then you add boards to the side of the box and you just get it bigger and bigger. You will have potatoes all the way down. Potatoes are not something that you have to grow in sets. However, one seed potato is more than you need for just one potato plant. Seed for potatoes come as whole potatoes. They're prepared by cutting them up. Each of the eyes becomes a root, and then those become the plants. So if you have a couple different of those potato eyes on each potato piece, that will make a very vigorous plant. Most seed potatoes can easily be cut into at least 3 pieces, giving you 3 different plants. Okay, the last seed number 7, is greens. Now, I've chosen this year to plant lettuce, and I'm also going to be planting beets, and I can harvest those beets for the greens. But the greens that I would recommend, if it's only one that you're choosing, is Swiss chard. It can be sauteed, eaten fresh, frozen. It is a fantastic and versatile green. It's not quite like a lettuce, but it can be used in that same way, or it can be added to salads alongside lettuce. Chard grows very vigorously, and once it takes hold, it just goes and goes and goes. And you can trim it, and more will keep coming, which is a huge benefit. Of the plants we've talked about, this is the one where you would actually harvest the first thing that comes up. All the other plants you're going to be picking off of the plant, whereas this you're actually harvesting the plant itself. So if you're going to go with a green, I would recommend going with Swiss chard. I want to talk about one bonus seed. This is one that I was thinking would be really great if you don't have the space for things like onions or garlic, but you really want that oniony, garlicky flavor. You want to be able to add it to different things and different foods. Fresh cut garden chives is what I would recommend going with. Chives gives you that oniony, garlicky flavor. They actually are a perennial, so they come back every year without you having to do anything. So if you find a great place in your yard that you want to keep these, plant them and they will just continue to come up. They take care of themselves in the best way. There's also a lot of different varieties of chives. If you want to grow chives, have fun and look at the different varieties. You know you'll find something that's great for your yard. If you're planning on gardening this year and you have a smaller space, please let me know if you think any of these vegetables would be a good addition for you. That's my top 7 for you, plus the one bonus. I hope that you found this useful. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. If you want to hear more about gardening, gardening adventures, seeds, food preservation, please consider subscribing, and we'll see you next time.